Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it.
Welcome to the InsideOutrz podcast with me, Danny Lloyd, once the guy who put the I in addict and now puts the Y into you.
What an intro. And it's Jordan, Mr. Jordan Lockerbie, former rock bottom resident, now absolute legend.
And we are the InsideOutrz or Inside Out Coaching Consultancy Collective, and this is episode 1, season 1 of the InsideOutrz, where we hope to bring you a safe space full of information, tips, tricks, and fun, helping you only not with your mental health, but also making it your mental wealth.
That's the one, inspiring change through our voices and the voices of others.
Hey, there we go. Well, I'm pretty pumped to be here, LockDog. This has been quite the journey to become a podcaster, hasn't it?
It is, man. It's been different, getting comfortable in front of the mic. And now we're here in front of the mic, episode number 1.
Yeah, baby. Episode 1. A big shout out to the Northern Sound System and the crew there with Hannah, Kate, Ben, and the rest of the crew. Evan, everybody that's helped us understand podcasting through the amazing initiative they have. Get hold of them if you want to understand podcasting and have your own podcast. And thanks to them, we are now here sharing our beautifulness with the world.
We are, and will I add, this is probably the greatest studio I've seen the inside of.
Yeah, it's pretty special, eh? We've got voice activated cameras looking at us. We've got different colored downlightings, some mad graffiti on the wall just quietly, and of course, but they've got us in it. So it just makes it even better. So, all right. So this is our first podcast. So you're going to be wondering what goes on here, and basically, each week. It's going to be a fortnightly podcast, but each fortnight, should I say, we will either be interviewing each other so you get to know a bit more about Jordan or Danny or who we are, or we will have guests on who are sharing their story where they took tragedy and turned it into triumph, just like everybody listening can do. Don't forget, all it is a bad day. That's what it is. It's not a bad life. We just have bad days, and hopefully through this podcast, we're going to give you tips and tricks on how to build resilience and staying power.
Is that over to me, Mr. Lloyd?
Well, I was giving it a brief look over there, Mr. LockDog. What do you? What matters to you about this podcast? Why did you want to do this podcast?
That's a really great question, actually. Ultimately, the reason I wanted to do this podcast, or do any podcast or get in front of any microphone, is to inspire change. Like I said at the beginning, a lot of people want to be able to do a podcast. A lot of people don't know what to talk about. Here we are just talking about us, ultimately. And through our podcast, you're going to learn a lot about us, our triumphs, our tragedies, tribulations.
Plenty of them.
Yeah, plenty of them. All the little wars we go through in life, especially mentally, with substances, relationships, downtrots in friendships. And you're going to hear the stories of others, regular people in the community that have probably the same experience, if not worse, sometimes better than yourself. And you're going to find a bit of inspiration, some motivation, and you're going to hear some really great stories along the way.
Yeah, I can't wait to get stuck into this, bruv. I can't wait. Geezer! Here we go. So we're going to get into it today. And Mr. LockDog, I would like to ask you some questions so that our viewing audience, and myself included, could get to know you a little bit better.
Sounds good.
So I guess the first question I have for you, LockDog, is why did you decide to become an entrepreneur and get into business with me? What possessed you?
I'll tell you what, some days I still ask myself that. No, but if I'm honest, I really enjoyed being an employee, well, especially in the previous role. like I got to help people one at a time, and we got to help transform their lives. A lot of what I did recently was working with people wanting to move from addiction into recovery and then their ideal life.
Yep.
And it's a really great journey to walk alongside someone with. But then, you know, in any industry, any career, you know, you have some frustrations. You think, why can't we change the system? Why can't we make it better? Whatever it might be. And for me, it was, as much as I love one-to-one, working through that individual one at a time, it's not super impactful in a way where I'm like, I could change a lot more people one to many.
Yes.
And I don't mean doing group work. I mean creating my own business, working with new models, eventually having a lot of employees.
Yep.
And just introducing new and innovative ways to help people through recovery, because my personal belief, is just a personal belief,
Yep.
that the models we use currently, or a lot of the models that are being used currently, aren't very effective, especially with the way addiction's changing. Like crystal meth has been around for a long time, but we still use old models to treat it.
Yeah.
Like it's new, but it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it's the definition of insanity, right? Is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. And that's exactly what we're doing around treating addiction, the stigmas behind it, and the models that are within it. They're just the same things that they were 100 years ago, and nothing has changed with that, but a lot has changed with the addictions and the mental health of people.
100%. You know, I was looking at stats from 2019 and 2020 just today, actually, for some of my own mental research. And crystal meth usage on a chart of percentages is so low, and it also states it's declining or decreasing in the amount of users. Well, that's who's recorded. But my time working in the AOD sector, a lot of people come into a rehab and don't disclose their crystal meth addiction.
100%.
They'll come in, you know, oh, I'm just here to sort out my issues with alcohol or cannabis or opioids or prescription medications, whatever it might be. And then later on we find out that there's a crystal meth problem.
Yep.
Or a lot of people addicted to crystal meth suffer in silence and don't even access treatment.
Yeah. Tell me about it, bruv. That's unbelievable. How many people that I know that are suffering in silence with that addiction for fear of judgment. I mean, how many times did we have people come into our crystal meth program we ran in Alice Springs and or into our rehab, and they would be claiming to have an alcohol problem. And only when we got down to the crux of it, we realized they actually had a crystal meth problem, but the jobs they had and the friendship circles or professional circles they had would mean if they said that over something legal and taxable like alcohol, then they would probably lose everything. But they're losing everything anyway. I mean, how tapped is that?
Yeah. And that's pretty much like my point at the moment is the reason I wanted to become a business owner is so I can move my own way and shape change in an industry the way I think it should be done.
Yeah. No, I like it. So, all right, tell me, what is something people misunderstand about you?
I think a lot of people don't understand my depth.
Yep.
I think probably that's the best way to put it. You know, I can be very quiet.
Yep.
And it's not that I'm shy. It's just I don't speak unless I need to speak.
Yeah.
You know, if a discussion doesn't concern me, or I just don't find a discussion stimulating, I don't speak a lot. But if you want to talk to me, then you know it's hellfire.
Yeah. It's like you only have enough bandwidth for things that inspire you or grow your mind, right? Like the bandwidth only goes that far, and when people start talking dribble, you just kind of like turn into one of them bobbleheads, eh? You just like nodding, and at the end you're like, oh, thanks for sharing that, and in your head you're going, oh, fucking kill me now, Jesus.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, like a lot of people get the labels introverted, extroverted. I'm very much both.
Yeah.
Like, and some days I just don't want to deal with all the people outside of the role I want to play in helping others.
Yeah.
You know, I might be quiet, you know, say in a meeting or out networking. I might not be super talkative depending on the person I'm talking to, but when my clients are in front of me, it's energy.
Yeah. It's an energy exchange, right? Like that's the beauty of it. It's when you're when you're working with somebody that is feeling like there is hopelessness in front of them, there's nothing, and you feel their energy and you exchange yours for theirs, so when they walk away from you that day, their energy is lifted. Sometimes your energy can be drained. I mean, there's a book I'm reading at the moment called The Celestine Prophecy, which is literally talking about how we are constantly in a power struggle with each other over energy exchange and like pulling out or putting in. And that's very much true with the job that we've had to encounter and do over our lifetime in the alcohol and other drug scene, right?
Yeah, 100%. You know, and in another example of what you just said is, I also understand in conversation there is that power struggle, and everyone wants to be heard.
Yeah.
There's always, we start to increase the pitch, the volume.
Yeah.
We try to push the message across, and people believe there's a lot of power in there. If I can just get my point across, if I can be heard, then that's my ego rubbed.
Yeah.
And then I'm at the middle of everyone's attention. But I also understand from my job and role is the power is actually held in listening.
Yep.
If you can listen to understand.
And no one knows how to do that,
and
right?
allow them to be heard.
Yeah.
You give them a moment of feeling powerful and stepping into their truth, or however they want to describe it. But the power is always in listening.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of my time listening.
Yeah.
The smartest men in the room are generally quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
And
the quiet ones are the ones you have to watch, right?
100%. I'm not saying I'm super smart, but I am smart. I'm not dumb.
Yeah. It's funny about the attention thing. Like, I think I've talked to you about this before about like social media, right? Like, say, for instance, Facebook. And to me, it's like all of us are like, it's like imagine a load of people in a room, right? And that's what Facebook is as a medium, right? It's everybody in this room, and everyone puts a post up, and everyone's going, me, look at me over here, no, here, me over here, and that's all the social media is, bro. Is everybody just going, please look at me, validate me, do this, do that. And in a way, it's kind of sad, and it's quite confronting when you really get the crux of social media. I know it has its plus points and that, but it also has a lot of minus points and this comparative narrative that we all feel we should be here because he or she said they're there.
Yeah, I like that. I love that phrase, comparative narrative.
Yep.
We're either on there comparing our life to others, and I personally think most people post that shit when their life's going shit.
Definitely.
I'm going to show you how much it glows
Yep.
when actually it's fucking dusty and dull.
All right, I got a question for you. This is quite a loaded question, so don't worry about going too much into it. Just give us like a minute or so overview, because over the coming weeks and months, everyone will get to know more about where you're from. But tell me briefly what it was like growing up in rural Mildura.
Wow, that is a loaded question.
It is,
because I feel like that town's a loaded town. Like it's loaded with shit, and it's loaded with like some really great things.
Yeah, definitely.
Like that, it has its social problems, man. Like every town.
Yeah.
If you're not aware of it though, if you haven't been exposed to the dark side of a town like Mildura or any town in that area, it's a beautiful town, man. Like I took you there recently, and
I was surprised. I was shocked. I had the internal representation in my head of obviously knowing your story and the things that go on in that town. Even now you've left because of the things you tell me. So then I had this thing in my head, right? And then we got there, and I was like, "What the fuck? This place is really nice."
Yeah, you would think there was Satan's throne somewhere in the middle of town, and
a
heap of gremlins running around, but. It's not like aesthetically. It's a beautiful town. It's one of those towns that a lot of people will shift from.
Yep. It's on the Murray as well.
Yeah,
which helps.
And you have a lot of people retire from Melbourne and move there and buy a property, and it's a great place to settle down and live out your remaining days. And it's good. Like there's a lot of young families there. It's nice, but unfortunately, I was in the lower social economic, part of that town growing up, and I was exposed to my things, not so great things, and.
Yep.
As crap as it was, like I tell everyone, like it's great that you have a sad story.
Yeah.
Well, it's not great, but it can be great.
Yeah.
Like you have a sad story. We all have a sad story. To the degree of how sad it is, who knows? That's you.
Yep. And what power you give it.
Exactly. But you do get to decide to stop reading it and start a new book.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that's profound, LockDog. It's profound.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to get back to that in other episodes because it's over time. What's important, I think, for this podcast outside of our other guests is that when we are a guest with each other on the podcast, on those alternative episodes, people slowly get to know who we are. We don't want to give everything away straight away, but I just wanted to just get a brief overview of rural Mildura in Vic. Now, 2 more questions before we move on to news of the week.
Okay.
What makes you feel inspired or like your best self?
I'll go with the second part of that first. I'm probably my best self when I'm helping others.
Yep.
And I think that definitely comes from a dark place in me where I need to show up and serve everyone else and help them get through whatever tragedies they're going through. For me to feel like, I matter in a way of like I'm giving back, I'm serving others.
Yep.
That's when I feel at my best. When I know that someone's walked out of my office or my business better than they walked in.
Yeah.
That's when I'm on a high. Like I'm naturally high.
Yeah. I like that. Right, nice. All right. Last one. You ready?
I'm ready.
This is a good one, man. It's a curveball. If you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
If I had a billboard with anything on it, this might sound a bit strange, but it would probably be a message for society to show a bit more compassion. And underneath that, I would love the definition of compassion.
Yep.
Which is to suffer with.
Ooh, nice.
Just a little bit more compassion and a little bit more kindness.
Yep.
It goes a long way.
What would be the picture on it that you were using for that?
I would love
What's
to
the
see
image?
just 2 people hugging.
Oh, nice. Connection, of course, because what's connection? It's the opposite. No, it's not.
Connection is one of the fundamentals of our little primitive brain.
Yeah, exactly. And it's what drives addiction if we do not have connection. When we are disconnected, we end up connecting with substances when we don't have humans.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even a disconnection from other people, but sometimes it's too painful to be within ourselves, in our own thoughts, in our own pain body, that we do try to connect with something outside of ourselves, and it could be a substance or it could be a behavior that doesn't serve us in any way.
Yeah.
Like that's healthy at all, like when it's too painful to connect with us, we will connect with external things.
Exactly. And that's what we hope to bring on this podcast out of the fun and the guests and all the things, is giving you a better education if you're listening and you have been addicted to why. And if you haven't been addicted but you have someone else that has, we need to teach you why. Because you can be part of the driving factor of them not getting better because of your prejudgments and stigmas. And it's not your fault. It's just how President Nixon started all this fuckery with his war on drugs. Because let's be honest, you can't war on an inanimate object, which means you're warring on vulnerable people, some of the most vulnerable people in society. And we've been stuck in that paradigm since the 70s, and we're still running that. People throwing stones in glass houses when they got their own addictions.
That's 100% it, man. It's a war on people.
Yep. Well, you know what that means? It must be time for the first ever news of the week. What do you reckon, LockDog?
Man, I'm in for some news.
Read all about it. Read all about it. It's the news of the week. Well, this week's news story is of our well-known celebrity in Australia, Cocaine Cassie. We all know about Cocaine Cassie, so this is what the news of the week is. In a tell-all interview, Cocaine Cassie said a Gumtree ad, yes, that's right, a Gumtree ad unleashed a chain of events that would see her arrested for drug trafficking in Colombia. I mean, that is some levels. So this is the brief overview. Apparently, Cocaine Cassie said a stint in sex work was how she first became involved in drug trafficking. Well, that's not a surprise if you're involved in sex industry work. An act that would see her locked up in a Colombian jail. Now, we all know what happened with Cocaine Cassie. Sainsbury said she had accidentally applied for the brothel role. How the fuck do you accidentally apply for a brothel role?
Must have been in the disclaimer.
Well, apparently. She said after she saw it on an ad on Gumtree advertising an hourly commission rate and flexible working hours. I know we shouldn't laugh, but that's fucking cooked. So anyway, a madam in the facility put her in touch with this man named Joshua. Now, I mean, Joshua, I never would... Joshua to me is someone always that sounds dodgy. I wouldn't trust a Joshua. Apologies if Joshua's looking, but... Anyway, look, the ins and outs of it is that this Joshua started asking her to deliver envelopes all over Sydney CBD. She didn't know what was inside it, of course, which was little bags of cocaine. And eventually... Cocaine Cassie's delivery jobs led to a job trafficking drug overseas. And Sainsbury said that she originally thought she'd be going with another woman to London, but that's not exactly how it worked out. And the ins and outs of it basically is that her father hasn't spoke to her since. I think he actually said, I'm still pretty angry about it. My family was trashed. We share the same surname. I've got an elderly mother to protect. I mean, that just about says it all to me. I'm not excusing what she did, but she was young, and it sounds to me if she was involved in sex work, brothels and drugs, maybe her father should probably have a look at himself a little bit more than just looking outwards and blaming her. What's your take on the story of the week, LockDog?
I'm actually still back at the delivering envelopes bit. I'm a bit stuck there. I think... unless you work for, let's say, the Post, we won't give it a title. And if you don't work for the Post, you're delivering envelopes, but you're meant to be working in a brothel.
Yeah. Alarm bells are ringing, right?
Well, you know, I'm not like a bull or anything, but I'd know that's a red flag and run at it.
I mean, you'd have to be, I mean, I'd have to...
Like, you got red flags and then you got sails on ships that are red. Like, that's a big flag.
Exactly. Pull your head in, bruv. Yeah, it makes you wonder, eh? Like, that is some out there stuff. I mean, getting involved on Gumtree and that leading you to a Colombian jail for X amount of years for drug trafficking, cocaine. I mean, that's a pretty big quantum leap.
Yeah, that's
Where do you even start with that, bro?
I don't know, but I can't imagine it's good.
No, that's pretty cooked. I mean, look, I guess what that highlights for me, as a running theme from the story of the week, is the importance of family, and by the sounds of it, or lack of, and what that can kind of lead you to.
Yes, so in that article, her father's now kind of disowned her.
It has for a little while now.
As a bit of a disgrace and stain on the family.
Pretty much. Yeah.
It's one of those things in addiction recovery, or even just some criminal stuff. So sometimes it's so important to have that support from the family. It makes the biggest amount of difference, and it can send them leaps and bounds ahead in healing or recovering whatever it is they need to do.
Yeah.
And then to know that your family are disgusted and want nothing to do with you. I would be concerned if she struggles to get out of that lifestyle because she doesn't have a better one probably to look forward to.
Well, you know what I would highlight there? It's kind of like what they say about a dog, right? Like, I'm not saying she's a dog. I'm just saying it's the same principle. They say a dog is for life, not just for Christmas. So's your fucking daughter. Like, oh, what? So she made some mistakes, and so I'm just going to drop her off at the pound? That in itself, to me, says a lot more about him than it does about her. She was quite young when she did this. Think about the stupid things we were doing at her age, right? We just didn't get caught.
Yeah.
Right? For me, I'm not defending her. She has to own what she did, and she did, and she's done the time, and she's got her life back together. She lives between Colombia and Australia now. She's kind of like met this other lady who she's married to, and they're kind of creating a life, and I think she'll come out on the other end of this a stronger person. But I mean, the importance of family, like, I did some really stupid things in my life. My mother didn't disown me. She just always wanted to support me through it, because no matter what you are raised like, whether it's good or bad, I mean, I was lucky, I got raised well by my mum, but you still are culpable of doing stupid shit, right? Like,
100%. And, you know, people aren't their behaviours.
No.
And we all make poor decisions in poor environments.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're not robots, right?
No.
We're human beings being human. And we're so quick to, you know, like when somebody is attacking you or saying something to you, projecting, I call it, on you about something, it's normally because it's what they know they're not doing in their life. Perception is projection. So when somebody is saying something negative to you, it's normally because it's what they actually know they should be doing or they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, and I think if anyone listening, and including yourself, when you're young and you know you do have those first few jobs in your life, you feel obligated to say yes.
Correct.
Like you're like, whatever's asked, you're like, yes, I'll do it, even when you know you probably shouldn't do it. And you know, when you're young and you're saying yes to all things, you are a bit naive to boundaries, the nature of what you're doing, you're overworking, and unfortunately for this young woman, it was an illegal activity she was saying yes to, and maybe she wasn't 100% sure about the consequences or even the nature of what she was doing, but you know, you feel pressured to say yes. And if you got to make ends meet, and you know, you rely on your boss, that job and that income to make ends meet, you will say yes.
Well, you know, I think it goes a bit deeper than just out of the other end of all of the things, and now her dad disowning her because of all the shame she brought. My question to the father is, why was she getting into brothel work in the first place? Forget about the drug trafficking. What were you not doing for your daughter for her to go into that life? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you can definitely ask that, but you know, it is also common for young people to go and do professions and chase careers that probably aren't really good for them or the world in general.
Yeah, that's true.
And they can come from a golden home, you know, but sometimes curiosity can kill a cat, you know.
Well, that's so true. Curiosity normally does kill the cat. So, all right, if somebody whoever's listening to this is struggling, let's just say they're struggling with the fact they don't have their family around anymore for whatever reason, what advice would you give them? I know it's a case by case sometimes, but what are the tips or tricks or things that we could tell our viewers that have disconnected for some reason from their family about trying and regain that connection or step back out of the comfort zone and try and reconnect? What would you tell somebody?
And we're going to go from the parents to...
Well, it could be either way, parents to the child, or I'm going to assume most of our avatar people listening will be probably wanting to reconnect with their parents. So, you know, the son or the daughter trying to reconnect with their parents after addiction and all of the chaos that brings, and then the parents sometimes just give up. Like, how do they go and fix that?
Start.
Yeah, okay.
Honestly, sometimes you just got to start. You know, reach out.
Yeah.
Hello. Can we have a conversation? Just start.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got the person that wants to start the conversation and rekindle the relationship, and also the other party wants to as well.
Yeah.
But both people don't want to go first.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Someone's got to take the lead, right? Leadership to then get your situationship back into a relationship and sail off into connectivity again. You like that?
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? If there's been a pretty big burn that, you know, severed the relationship, and this situation, for example, with the story you just read out on the news, sometimes it just takes work.
Yep.
You know, people struggle to get past their own ego and values and sit objectively and go, maybe I could change too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, do you know one thing I would tell anybody that's listening to this, if they are disconnected or estranged from their parents because of their past addiction, forget about social media, forget about Messenger, forget about text message. You want to make an impact in trying to rebuild a connection with your parents? Go old school, go and get yourself some writing paper and a pen and actually write to them in an actual letter and send it to them and their address, because that is the most authentic way you can connect and recommunicate with your parents or family after addiction. I'm telling you now, they receive a messenger message or any of this other rubbish electronically, it doesn't say I care like you sitting down and actually writing a letter. And if you can't write yourself, get a friend to do it. I challenge anybody that's disconnected from their family because of their addiction, that is now on the other side and feeling better, take the first step. Swallow your pride, your ego, or fear. If it's fear, action cures fear, and go get a pen and a piece of paper and write down everything you need to say to them of how you feel now, how you felt, and how sorry you are, or whatever it is that you need to say. And at least you can go to bed tonight when you post that letter knowing you tried, and you can only see now what happens. Who knows what could happen from that one action, what reaction could happen.
I 100% support that idea because, sometimes when things are super sour in a relationship, people aren't always ready to listen, but they might be ready to read.
Exactly. Well, LockDog, it's been a great first episode. I believe we're coming to the end of it now by the looks of the clock, and I have to thank you for your candid interview that we've had, and I enjoyed very much learning a bit more about the LockDog, and it's been real fun to get this first notch on our belts per se in the podcast world.
Yeah, and then As you know, my throat is far from great today.
I think it sounds very sexy.
I'm pretty sure the next episode I might sound like there's a different person in this seat.
Husky.
Yeah, definitely getting over a bit of a cold or a sore throat, whatever it is. I haven't gone to the doctor. I've just ridden it out.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what I sound like next time.
Well, I will be both interested in that. And also, it is actually Mental Health Week. So just raising awareness of that. If anyone listening is struggling mentally for any other reason, then please reach out and talk to someone, whether it is your doctor, your health professional, a counselor, a coach. If you need us, we can be found online. Our mobile numbers, or I'll give you my mobile number. I'm probably going to regret this. But anyway, my mobile number is 0452 464 394. If you need mental health support, you are struggling as a man or a woman in this time of uncertainty, ask someone for help. Each one, teach one. On the next podcast, we're going to have our first guest, a Adelaide legend in Daniel Smith, aka Smithy, who has a business called Hammer and Crow Asbestos Services, and he is quite the character, I can tell you. And we are looking forward to hearing about his upbringing and how he took his tragedy, turned it into triumph, and now has a beautiful family, a thriving business, and the life he deserves. So thanks, LockDog, for today.
Thank you for having me. I will be back. I'm speaking to you like I'm a guest.
Wait, it's your show, bro.
Yeah, thank you for having me like it's our show.
Yeah.
But yeah, super excited for Smitty to come on in the next episode. His story is very much what we spoke about towards the beginning. He fits the criteria of an individual that has started at the bottom and found his version of the top, and he's very happy in what he does today.
Yep, exactly. I'll leave you with this. Your enemy is expectation. Your ally is detachment. That's the InsideOutrz podcast. We will see you next time.
Nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how.
See you next time on the InsideOutrz podcast.